Arban Battle is an upcoming game of vehicular combat in an urban setting. It should be on Kickstarter soon, or maybe it already is on Kickstarter by the time you see this video. This video is based on the trial edition. The publisher asked me if I wanted to take another look, and I was like, sure, why not? It looks like the kind of fun, simple game that maybe I can play with the family, or a retired grognard such as myself can just play on their own. So what you see here is not the final product, say the rule book, just, printed sheets of paper held together with a clip. Things will change, the color of the vehicles may be different, things like that. The rules may also change, but also important to say, this is not a paid preview. I just enjoy the privilege of looking at games a little earlier from time to time, and I do receive a review copy, but then I just play it and I tell my viewers what I think about it without asking for money. Now, you're gonna have a generic representation of tank warfare, in the sense it doesn't represent a specific period in history, and so the two sides are gonna have tanks of the same kind with the same ratings. But you have quite a number of them, as indicated by the player aid here, and this is just a sense of how your pool of tanks may look like. After you separate them, if you're gonna play this game regularly, you will definitely want to have a sorting system, maybe use one of those pillboxes, or hey, this would be a worthy stretch goal, just a divider and insert that will allow you to keep all of these things separate. Once you have separated them, you can decide on the mission you want to play, or you can just create your own battle. The vehicles have different kind of ratings in terms of effectiveness, and you decide, hey, we're going to play a battle with 60 points, so each player can create their own forces that way, and they should be balanced. I use a simpler method, which is I start with 3 medium tanks and 2 light tanks, and then I add something. In this case, I decided to add a recon, and I decided to add a tank hunter. And the other side gets exactly the same thing. I know they're balanced, and I don't need to do math. So that's the way to do it. It's very simple. Again, we have multiple missions, multiple possible missions, or the way I played it, just to get a sense so I could share my opinions with you, is I just played a couple of two-handed solo battles. The sides will alternate, taking turns, and when you're the active player, you cannot move all of your vehicles. You only move a number of them based on the number of vehicles you have in play. For example, now my two parties are starting with 7 each, so each will get to move 3 of them. Now, the game actually has multiple levels of rules. One is the absolute rules, which is deterministic. You don't roll dice. And then there are 2 dice-based modes, and that's the ones that I played. Well, I played you have the basic and the advanced. I played the advanced. And one thing that I like very much is that in the advanced you have the optional rule that although only a number of your tanks will activate fully, everybody else still gets to move a little step, which is not much, but I like that the other people are not taking a nap. So we'll get to activate 3 of my vehicles. I can also use these tokens here as a reminder of which ones activated in case I'm afraid of forgetting. And when I activate, my tanks can fire or move then fire, in that order specifically. Also, again, do nothing. Each vehicle has a speed, and that's how many movement points it moves. So suppose we decide to activate a medium tank, we will have 4, our recon will have 6. You know what, let's activate the recon up there. For a step, I can move into the square straight in front of me, and that's 1 step. For a step, I can turn by 45 degrees. Now, wheel vehicles cannot turn by 45 degrees more than once per square, but track vehicles could. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for example. I think that's a terrible move, but it shows you how movement works. And then I decide to move another one by, this one moves by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. And these are the ones, as we said, because I use that level of rules, they only get one step of movement, and I use them to do that. There we go. And then maybe the other side moves, and so on and so forth. Now, as you move, you may find yourself in a position to attack the opponent. Now, in the basic rules, you can only attack through straight lines. So this vehicle here could fire here and could fire here, but for some reason not that. Right there, I could not fire against that one because it's not in the diagonals, and I'm not a huge fan of that, as you can imagine. So there is another variant in which you use a ruler, and that's in the advanced, quote-unquote, realistic method, in which you simply count the distance and that's it. And so I would say that I'm at a distance of about 3 squares. I'm gonna call that 3 squares against that. The distance is important. So each vehicle has an attack value that's a medium tank, and so it will roll a red die and a purple die and add a fixed amount of 5, giving me a result between 8 and 15. The red die is a regular 6-sided die. The purple is a custom die. It has numbers between 1 and 4 only, with 2 and 3 repeated twice. And so I'm firing against that recon vehicle there. Oh, that's gonna be toast. 9 plus 5 is 14. What is the number I'm trying to reach or exceed? The distance, which would be 3, plus the armor of the part of the target that I'm trying to hit, front, side, or rear. I'd say I'm hitting the side from here, and so there would be, the distance was 3, my number 2 would be 5, and that would be a hit. Now, if I roll a 1, actually on the red die, it's always a miss, because there's always that chance, but there would be a hit. When you hit in this game, well, that's not as spectacular as I thought it would be. I forgot that I can't flick. You remove the thing from the board, and that's it. That would be for that activation. Of course, by doing so, oh no, it's their turn. So now this tank goes like 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, now they get to attack me. So just you see how it works. Medium tank versus medium tank. Again, I roll 2 dice, and I may as well roll them to see what I get. 6 plus 5 is 11, and the distance is probably 2. That's 3. Let's count it as 3. It doesn't matter because the side of this tank is 4, and so that would be not good for this tank. So as you can see, it looks like, well, I put them close to each other so you could see how combat works. But of course, if you're playing in real and you are coming at a respectful distance, you're gonna probably maneuver a little bit more. You won't probably go like right there to shoot. You'll do a couple of other things. Actually, it's pretty fun to see how the tanks maneuver around these buildings, and they try to get to the side of the opponent. Getting to the rear is very tough. Get to the side of the opponent without exposing their own flank, and then somebody that you hadn't noticed comes from behind. Booyah. So in real, the first couple of turns are not going to be as brutal as you just saw here, but it may get brutal if people do decide to do it that way. But you can also be a little more stealthy. That is for straight shooting. You also have parabolic fire, which is, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. You don't need to have line of sight. Booyah. You don't need to have line of sight to your target. That howitzer does not have line of sight to this tank here, I don't think. As long as somebody from your group has it. Then you count the distance. and the distance here would be 12. And you roll the dice, but now for the parabolic, you only roll a single red die. You multiply the result, and you're simply trying to get equal to or higher than the distance. Let's assume you're coming from the top, you're hitting the top, which is the least powerfully armored part of the vehicle. So if you just hit it, it's gone. So in this case, what did we say the distance is? Was it 12? Yeah, look at me, perfect memory. So 12, the heavy has times 4, which pretty means if I roll 3 or more, that one is gone. And I showed you that so that you see why I think that the heavy artillery is just a little OP and kind of kills the fun, at least for me. The first time I tried to have all this fun, maneuver on the buildings, try to come up and around. Until then, I found little incentive when I realized that what I was really wanted to do to win was to get a line of sight on somebody and then pummel them with those. If I'm getting something wrong, well, my apologies. If that's gonna be your experience, there is an easy fix. Done. That's the easy fix. Yes, after getting the feeling that these guys are OP, I started playing without them, and the game was a lot more interesting. And again, it rewarded tactical maneuvering a lot more. So Arban Battle, what we see here is an early version of the game. There's also gonna be a junior version that is pretty much the same game with basic rules and fewer components, and it says junior on the box, so you don't mistake the two. It's simple, it's light, but it's satisfying. It's satisfying. I mean, when without the heavy howitzers destroying people anticlimactically. It's quite satisfying to work around these buildings and to create the perfect spot, try to protect your own flanks, and just try to exploit the possibilities. It's an extremely simple game, definitely an introductory war game for people who maybe want to get into this side of the hobby. It'd be great to play with families. If you have a young family member you want to get passionate about wargaming. It can feel probably overwhelming if you just start with a big range of things, but the other thing is that you can simply start with, well, use like 3 or 2 types of tanks the first time, so you will memorize very easily the speed and the main defense and attack values of each, and then you add another, and then you add another, and then you add another, and you should be able to then have a nice range of different things with a lot of possibilities. The game should include also missions, but the way I tried it, just by going around, maneuvering around buildings, and shooting at each other, that was perfectly fine and perfectly satisfying. So, I think this game has a lot of potential as an introductory and light war game.